Welcome, collectors and hobby enthusiasts. You join me once again for another HO Scale Collection Update video. In today's video, we're going to be going over my collection of HO or 1 to 87 scale motor graders and scrapers. So let's not waste any more time. We got some great stuff coming up. First model I want to show you is the Scene Master motor grader in 187 scale. So this grader actually started out as a Keybri kit before Scene Master took over the license, and it's based on the O&K 16-8M grader. This snap-together kit is really easy to assemble. You do need some modeling glue, but if you are a skilled model builder, honestly, it should take you no more than a half hour. You do get the option to put a dozering blade on the front of it, which I have left off, and also a rear ripper, which again, at this point, I have also decided to leave off of it. I think at some point I will probably disassemble this and respray it in my highway department colors of orange and silver, maybe to use it as a snow grader or something like that. Another option you could have is to go all out and paint it in the O&K red and white scheme. But again, just for now, I think it looks good enough. It was a very fun kit to do, and it'll make it fun evening or Saturday project for you. All right, next grader. This is another Scene Master grader, but this one is much older. This doesn't really represent a real-life grader of any kind, but I think they took some inspiration for some old Alice Chalmers grader, maybe even some of the old Cat 12, kind of mismatched some parts and came up with this. It does come in a blister packaging, and it's still very, very easy to get. Most train or hobby shops will have this in stock even today, despite being a couple decades old. It is entirely plastic, so it's very, very affordable. A couple cool, interesting features on here include a blade that can be removed and positioned in a couple different positions. You see these holes. And also the cab can be removed if you want to go all out for a vintage look with no protection on it whatsoever. All right. Next, we have an Athearn John Deere 770CH, a model that has long been discontinued, so if you are interested in purchasing one of these, you will have to source it somewhere on the secondary market. Mostly an all die-cast piece with some plastic parts. It is a hefty model. I'd say it's above average in terms of detailing. The pad-printed graphics are pretty high quality. They look pretty good. And I'd say this machine dates to the mid-90s, maybe. It's not bad. Looks pretty good. Okay. Here is the most recent grader that I have in my collection. And this was actually gifted to me from a friend in Japan. This is the Komatsu Shareholders GD675 motor grader. If you're not familiar with these Komatsu shareholder gifts, basically, once a year, Komatsu will come out with a 187 scale model of a certain piece of heavy equipment that they make and distribute it among their shareholders as a gift. And then whatever's left, they distribute among sellers, so the sellers actually list these on eBay. So you can often purchase them from Japanese sellers on eBay. Again, as I just mentioned, this one was gifted to me from a friend in Japan. Pretty nice looking grader overall, very high level of functionality. Has a great range of articulation. You can even pose the front axle steering. Blade itself has good movement, including the blade being able to extend left or right. And again, you can articulate across the back. And I love the amber warning beacon up on top of the cab. So we'll let that spin around one more time. I believe this was the shareholder gift for 2019, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe 2018. Doesn't matter. One of those 2 years. So that is the GD675-6. All right. Here's one of my favorite HO scale models of all time. You know me, I'm a softie for antique Caterpillar equipment. This is the Norscot Cat Diesel number 12 motor grader. This is Cat's first venture into the motor grader market. They produced these from 1939 to 1959. Once Cat bought a few other grader companies, like Russell, for example, and then came up with their own grader line. This was part of, let me verify this. This was part of the Antique Caterpillar Machinery Owners Club collection that Norscot did a number of years ago now. Came on a plastic base and in a display case, but with the help of a Phillips screwdriver, you can remove it from the base and place it straight on your display shelf or on your train layout. Not the highest level of detail or functionality, but I still think it looks great, and it's wonderful to have a representation of Cat's first ever grader in HO scale. It was a commercial hit because many model railroaders actually model this period, and I'm talking, post-World War II or slightly before it, and then into the 50s and early 60s. Okay, let's stick with Norscot. This is the Cat 160H VHP Plus rather. Again, a pretty decent range of functionality. Again, this was made about 2002, so this model's almost 20 years old, so factor that in. Blade moves, as you can see here. You can articulate it. The rear axles have oscillation, as they should, and then you can lower the ripper if you want to do that as well. Very little to no underside detailing, but that was never a big thing with me, still isn't. I would prefer that they put much more detail on the things you can see, obviously, because nobody displays their model like this. So that is the 160H. Stayed in the Cat scale model lineup for a number of years. All right, then they released this. This is the 163H, which for all intents and purposes was a, how do I put this? A literal Walmart version of the 160H. So instead of having rubber wheels, this has plastic wheels. Instead of having a lot of die-cast component, it has plastic components. Instead of having the exhaust and air cleaner, it's not even there. But they sold these in blister packs, and as I said, they distributed these at Meijer's and Walmart's and Target's, and they were very successful because they were priced very affordably for most people, between $6 and $9, and many of the younger collectors, maybe this was your first foray into the scale model community because they were in the same aisle that you would find Matchbox and Hot Wheels quote-unquote toys. So it was Norscot, again, trying to get into the big store demographic, and for the several years that they did it, it was, to some extent, pretty financially and commercially successful. Okay. Next, we have one of my favorite graders. This is the Diecast Masters Cat 12 M3. This is also available in 1/50th scale. I think one of the funniest pictures I took a number of years ago was I took the HO scale version and then posted it next to the 1/50th scale version. Just kind of a funny ha-ha picture, but both are very detailed models. This was one of the first Highline Series HO scale models that Diecast Masters released. It was an all-new tooling for them. It wasn't it wasn't a Norscot model that was re-decaled or remodified or whatever. This was an all-new tooling for them. For those of you that do not like our operator figure in the cab, fear not. You can simply undo this screw right here and take him out of the cab. Good range of functionality. Again, a working ripper. Obviously, the blade works. Articulates. Rubber tires. Even a nice warning light up on top of the cab. And priced, again, very affordably. All right, let's conclude the grader section of the grader and scraper video with the classic construction models Caterpillar 140H grader. Again, part of the original 12-piece set released almost 20 years ago. I don't know how many times I can say this about the 12-piece set, and again, if you haven't seen the video, there's a link at the top of your screen right now, a suggested link if you would like to check that out. That video goes in depth behind the history of the original 12-piece set and CCM, but these models are just spectacular. They really, really are. So this is the 140H. These models, again, are not meant to be particularly functional, but they are meant to be extremely eye-catching and detailed down to the very last detail. We have the hand and grab rails here, access stairs, these mirrors on here. You even have the hydraulic cylinders that are painted separately, and bolt detailing on the wheels. All right. Now, let's begin the scraper part of the video. First model is a ROCO or ROCO. I think it's ROCO. ROCO is the spelling of this company. It's an Austrian company, and they only have one model by them. This is the Caterpillar DW20 with dolly and scraper. They also make a Cat 619C, which eventually I would like to track down. This is an entirely plastic model, very low level of detailing, bare bones, but it is a pretty cool representation of a plastic piece and a classic model. You can raise and lower the scraper bowl. Obviously, you can separate them if you want to. So, for example, if you have like an old Cat D7 or just an old, Cat track type tractor, you can pull this behind it. Pretty different, some different opportunities that are available there. Or if your railroad has, the 60s or 70s that you're modeling that era anyway, this could be another option to purchase this model. Okay. Let's get back to more contemporary stuff, more modern stuff. This is the Norscot Cat 627G. This is what's known, for those in the know, as a twin-engine scraper, because it not only has an engine in the front, but it has an engine in the rear. Pretty functional model overall. Rubber tires, scraper bowl and everything will raise and lower. Obviously, it does articulate across the articulation joint. Came out about 2002, same time as most of the other Norscot Cat models. And for that time, these were, I say it time and time again, but these were pretty far ahead of the game. And I still have, matter of fact, allow me 1 second. I still have my original box for this, as I do for most of my models. And when I mean ahead of the game, these things retailed for $15. Yeah. Don't we all wish we can go back to times like that? Okay. Next, we have the updated Diecast Masters version of the 627G. This version has the Diecast Masters operator in the cab and also the updated Power Stripe graphics, which Cat introduced in 2007 and used up until last year with the introduction of the modern hex design. But in terms of the actual tooling and the scraper itself, nothing has been changed in terms of functionality or anything. It's still good. Why fix something when it's not broken? Now, what I've seen some custom modelers do, and we'll see a perfect example of that when we get to the last scraper in this collection, but I've actually seen some people fabricate push-pull parts on these models and order multiple ones and put them on their displays. So that's another option for these, but I kind of like the way they look just like this. Okay. This is the Classic Construction Model 633E Elevating Scraper. This is number 3 in the original 12-piece brass model set. This is the only elevating scraper that I know of in HO scale or 187 scale. The elevating mechanism here, obviously, is not functional. But what else do you need to say? I mean, the detail on this with the hydraulic lines, even the lines going here, the grab rail, it's just unbelievable and unmatched. And a very impressive piece in its own right. The one working feature that is on here is that it does articulate across the pivot point. And I do believe you can raise and lower this, although I'm not going to do that, and I've never done that with mine because I don't want to move any paint or chip anything. But I'm very happy with the way that it looks as is. Okay, let's conclude the video with the aforementioned push-pull scraper. This is the Classic Construction Models Cat 657G wheel tractor scraper. This is the standard version of this model. They came out with a mining white version of this model, and they also came out with a coal scraper version, which has a coal body on it. I don't have either of those to show you. I know the coal version is extremely expensive for the couple places that have it that I'm aware of. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get one of those or track one of those down. But for all intensive purposes, really the only difference is the coal bowl. This is the main bowl on it. The push-pull mechanism. So this is the front part of the push-pull. And as it spins around to the rear, I'll show you the part that hooks onto, which is right here. So the way this works, for those people that may not be familiar, is two of these scrapers are designed to work in tandem. So this part would hook over the rear of the first scraper, and when the first scraper would come along into the cut, he would fill his bowl, and then he essentially would raise his bowl up, and then he would pull the other scraper along, effectively doubling the horsepower and allowing, obviously, quicker pass times, and obviously also helping the scrapers not to get stuck. So an innovative new way to load two scrapers more effectively and quickly, developed by Caterpillar and still used to this day. So there you go, collectors. That is my collection to date of 187 or HO scale graders and scrapers. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I know that I've enjoyed filming this series. Take a look at the top of your screen right now. That'll be a suggested link for another video in this particular series. As always, I'm Tommy with Diecast Emporium. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, take care, be safe. I'll see you in the next review.